So I just finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I wanted to bring you guys sort of like I guess discussion type review on the game, because I kind of like doing these sort of things at the end of a playthrough of something. It's kind of my way of decompressing and sort of just sharing my general thoughts. Now, I'm going to avoid spoilers. If for some reason I decide to go into spoilers later on in the video, I will give you a warning. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into some crazy spoilers and ruin the game for you guys along the way. Obviously, there's going to be, you know, I guess maybe milder stuff, but nothing like plot points or storylines. At least nothing that's not already been revealed in the trailers. So if you haven't seen the trailers, then it might be spoilery, but if you've seen the trailers, then that's kind of the track I'm going to try to tread upon. Also, let me know if you guys want to see me do more of these in the future. I've been doing some of these kind of style reviews over on my other channel, which is basically all the games that are not Nintendo related. This channel specifically for Nintendo games. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Okay, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is just wow. Now I'm going to get the first question out of the way that has been asked again and again and again, and it's already been answered, but do you need to play Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 before playing 3? No, but I am super glad that I did, because there are elements in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that obviously, like, you don't need to know from Xeno 1 and Xeno 2 in order to really grasp them. But if you've played 1 and 2, I mean, you understand a little bit more about certain elements that are kind of thrown in there. I don't want to, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but there definitely is fan service that is, you know, kind of thrown in here. And not just as side stuff either. There is some side elements. There's some portions that you're going to see even like in the end of the game, you know, kind of towards the grand finale, if you will, that reveals a bunch of stuff that, you know, you're gonna be like, oh wow, you know, but only oh wow if you played Xeno 1 and 2. These kind of elements, these kind of things that are shown or revealed, let's say, again, I'm trying to not spoil it, are things that you probably won't understand the context if you didn't play Xeno 1 and 2. Does that mean you have to play the first two games to enjoy this game's story? No, not at all, because for the majority, the large portion of the story is in and of itself its own thing, but there is connections to the first two games. So like I said, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you don't play the first two games, but you don't need to. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Like I said, if you played the first two games, there's going to be a lot of whoa factors, and if you haven't, you're still going to have those whoa factors, but just not for these certain elements, which really adds to it, because it's just kind of, it's really cool. I apologize for the quick cut. My throat gave out on me. As someone who's played the first two games, it really adds to kind of, you know, the overall grandeur, if you will, the epicness, the awesomeness of the game, right? So that is one thing I do want to say. Now, I want to get one thing out of the way too, is that first of all, when it comes to Xenoblade 1 and 2, everybody is split down the middle, it seems. I've talked to people who prefer 1 over 2, and I've talked to people that prefer 2 over 1. And in terms of 3, it seems like the general consensus for 3 is from other people that have finished the game already. They've been saying similar to me, that they feel that, you know, 3 is a great game in and of itself, right? So whether you preferred 1 or whether you preferred 2, you'll most likely love 3 no matter what, because 3 is really phenomenal. It is such a great game, and it is a lot of fun. Now, again, to avoid spoilery stuff, I'm going to try to just throw in random B-roll in the background behind me, because I don't really want to go through the menus and stuff, because I have beaten the game, and because I'm at this point, I don't want to accidentally spoil something, and hopefully my B-roll in and of itself doesn't spoil anything too crazy. I'm going to try to go to just kind of general locations for the most part. I'm trying hard to not spoil as much as I can for you guys, okay? Now, what I do want to say is that the overall gameplay of this game, in my opinion, is the best. It is the smoothest experience. It is just the most fluid experience. I think the gameplay mechanics in and of themselves is the most, I guess, intuitive, for lack of maybe a better word. I think that there's just, it's easier to grasp, it's easier to get around. I feel like 2 started to get really complex, especially with all the different systems, right? Like you had your kind of main characters, and all their skill trees, and then you had, you know, kind of like your blades and all their stuff, and then you had multiple different blades, and then, you know, swap them in and out. Now I guess some people would argue that the heroes in 3 could be compared to the blades in 2, but I don't know, for some reason it just 2 felt more like a complex system, more of a complex system to me, that was just harder for me to kind of grasp and get through, and 3 felt like a lot better. Now I also will say 3 has better tutorials, so when you're kind of going through and learning the mechanics, 2 doesn't really do a good job at explaining, you know, the ins and outs of how the game works and all the mechanics. 3 does a much better job, and you can revisit those tutorials at any time in the menus. So that's really nice. So I think the gameplay in 3, in my opinion, is better than both 1 and 2. I think it just kind of tops both them, you know, even in terms of mechanics. It's not unnecessarily complex or confusing. There is that depth for, you know, people that are, you know, fans of RPGs, right? Like, you got your accessories, and you got, you know, you got your different mechanics. There's a mechanic that's called gems in here, and gems add different kinds of you know, stats, right? Different kinds of ability boosts or whatever. You know, for example, it can increase your attack, or it could increase your agility or dexterity, or you know, do a number of different things, right? And they're categorized, you know, with attacking properties versus healing properties versus defender properties, and, you know, so on and so forth. So, and all of these gems can be upgraded. You get materials throughout the world, you can upgrade them, or you can also get these coins, these gold Nopon coins. You also get silver ones. Gold ones are a little bit more rare throughout your journey, and the gold ones you can use to upgrade the gems and whatnot. The silver ones you can use to cook meals if you don't have the right ingredients for a meal, but you've learned, you know, how to cook it. You can do that. Now, again, I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details. I'm already kind of going a little bit too deeper than I wanted to, because there is so much to this game. I want to kind of give a broad stroke, a broad idea of what, you know, what you guys can expect. I want to also say, from day one of the reveal of the gameplay, I said it from the start, and I'll say it now after being in the game, I love the UI. I think the UI is very sleek. It's aesthetically appealing to me anyways. Maybe everybody's a little bit different in that regard, but I think it's great. One huge quality of life improvement that I think is just massive, especially for someone like me, is that you have the option to show the quest route. Now, you don't have to. It's not on like automatically. It's something that you can turn on or off as you wish. I left it on the whole time because honestly, I get lost a lot. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I spent hours upon hours just getting lost, not knowing where to go. I had to even look up guides at some point because certain times I was just like, I have no idea how to get from point A to point B, and I'm really confused right now. And that got a little frustrating for me during my playthrough of Xenoblade 2. But in Xenoblade 3, they just, again, having this kind of quest route where it shows like a red line to get to where you need to go is super helpful, especially considering the fact that this world is massive. It is bigger than any other Xenoblade Chronicles game. It is huge, at least as far as I've played. I didn't play X, so maybe X is bigger. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's the biggest one. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So 3 is massive. The worlds are huge. There's times where I thought I explored the majority of an area, of a region, and then I went back for, you know, side stuff later on, and I started realizing, wow, I barely explored any of this. This is way bigger than I ever imagined, and even after beating the game, there's still a lot that I haven't explored, and I would like to go back in and kind of explore it. I do want to also say how much time I played. I played about 62 hours. Actually, not about, on the dot, 62 hours, like not even a minute past. So that's just how long it took me. I really wanted, you know, at one point I was like, okay, I just want to get the story done with because I'm really curious how this ends. And so I went to go do that. I got all the heroes except I think one. I missed one unintentionally. I didn't realize there was one other one. So I did all those, and I would honestly highly suggest you guys do that. I'm not going to explain fully why. I just highly recommend you do that. If you're playing through the game, get as many heroes as you can before finishing the game, and then come back and thank me later. That's all I'm going to say. Now, all the heroes, for example, they're basically a 7th party member that joins the team. And they're a party member that you can't control. So you got the core 6 that you can control, right? So you got Noah, Eunie, and Lanz from Keves, the Keves nation. And then from the Agnus region, you have Mio, you have Taion, and you have Sena. Those 6 you can control. Now, they all have different classes, right? So at the start, when you first kind of have those 6, you know, characters in your party, it's set to have 2 attackers, 2 defenders, and 2 healers. Now, at one point, when you unlock heroes, you can unlock these heroes' classes, and you can change your class. And you can swap classes. So, for example, Noah can use for example, Mio's class or whoever else in the party, and vice versa and all that. You can interchange them, right? And that unlocks other kinds of skills and abilities, things like that. Now, the good thing is that, I mean, you can cater to this however you want. Now, healers are the only ones that can res people. So if you have no healers on your team, which you could do, and anybody goes down, they cannot be revived. So you need healers. Now, some people like to put, 3 healers, for example, especially when you start unlocking the different heroes. Maybe you want to choose a hero that is a healer. I personally loved using Valdi, who is a healer, and I used that hero most of the playthrough, but I swapped out here and there as well. And like I said, when you switch your class on a character, so for example, if I take Noah, who is an attacker by default, and I can make him a healer, I can make him, have Eunie's class or one of the heroes I unlock. Obviously their weapons are going to be the weapons that class uses, right? And so on and so forth, and same kind of moves and things like that. So that's kind of the general idea. Now again, I'm not going to go too deep into the mechanics of the game because there's a lot more that could be said about arts, things like that. There also is the Ouroboros form, which we've seen in the reveal trailer. And without going too far into that, because again, I don't want to spoil anything, there is a skill tree for those things as well, which you can upgrade and whatnot, and make them a little bit more powerful, have different abilities, different things like that. So that's nice as well. It's kind of an extra layer to kind of, increase that. And yes, chain attacks are back in the game as well. And the way they work is very interesting. Each hero has a different kind of, I guess, sort of perk to their what they bring to a chain attack. So for example, with Valdi, as I was mentioning earlier, if you're fighting against any kind of mechanical enemy, usually Valdi will give an extra things like 50 TP, which is like basically attack points or whatever. It's kind of hard to explain that without going too much more into depth, but the point is they all have their different kind of perks and abilities, so you can kind of swap them in and out and whatnot. As far as customization goes, you unlock different kinds of clothing options which you can kind of swap in and out and just kind of dress your characters how you kind of most see fit, and whatnot. So that's all great. I want to talk about the music really quick because the music is just absolutely incredible. I'm not going to talk too much about it. All I'm going to say is it's amazing. The music by itself is a solid 10 out of 10. No doubt about it. I thought the music in all of the Xenoblades are amazing. I think they just get better and better, to be honest. If I'm looking back, Xeno 1 had great music. I feel like Xeno 2 cranked it up, and I feel like Xeno 3 just cranked it up even harder. So the music in Xeno 3 is just so good. I was mentioning through my Xeno 2 playthrough that the music reminded me a lot of kind of like Zelda and Breath of the Wild, and I believe a lot of the same composers that actually worked on Breath of the Wild also did the music for Xeno 2 and Xeno 3. And Xeno 3 is the same thing. A lot of the music felt very Zelda-esque, which I love personally, but it doesn't feel like it's ripping off any kind of known Zelda music. It just had that vibe and element to it. It felt like its own thing. The music was epic. It got me hyped. The chain attack music is always super hype. It's burnt into my skull and I love it. It just has this beat that just, you just can't help but bob your head to when you're in a chain attack, and you get really hyped, and they did a great job as far as the composers go. So that is absolutely incredible in and of itself. I got nothing more to say except 10 out of 10 music. I said that the world was massive, beautiful environments, tons to explore, so much to explore. It's just absolutely insane. And I guess that all ties it down to the story. I'm not going to go in depth with the story, but like I said, I kind of touched upon it in the beginning. The story is quite incredible. You already know kind of the general premise of it from the trailers, but the story really unfolds into something that is truly magnificent. It is breathtaking, captivating. It grabs you, it steals your heart, and it brings you on an emotional roller coaster like Xenoblade Chronicles games are kind of known for, right? They're kind of known for doing that, where they have really great character development. There's just so much to it. And even with some of the kind of, side quests, there's like minor side quests and kind of bigger side quests, which are usually marked by like yellow icons, things like that. Some of the bigger side quests, like they call them side stories, highly recommend you guys do those. You don't need to, but I highly recommend it because there's some great story in there. And honestly, one of my favorite tidbits of story was in a side story. I believe it was Sena's side story. And there was an element in there that's just added to something that you've kind of discovered during the main story. So there was that, and it's just phenomenal. And as far as side quests, by the way, go, there's tons. I've done a ton already, and there's probably still so much more to do. I don't even know how many side quests are actually in the game, but there's tons, and you're going to be busy for days and days and days and days. Like I said, I'm at 62 hours. I hear people clocking in already at 100 hours. Completionist, I believe, takes maybe roughly 150 hours if I heard right. So yeah, it's pretty massive. You got, like, you're really getting your bang for your buck with this kind of game. You got so much content, and we're of course going to be getting some DLC, which is going to be absolutely amazing as well. And last thing I'll say about the story, without spoiling anything, is that the way the story concludes is just epic. It actually ends on like a 30-minute cutscene because there's just so much to kind of, you know, finish off and unpack after your final boss fight. It's nuts. There's so much going on in this story, in this world, and it is just an absolute pleasure. And it really, once you get to the end, you're just wowed. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. And that's all I could keep saying when I was finishing the game. It's up on the channel if you guys want to go see, once you beat the game yourselves, of course. But yeah, it was just nuts, man. I really enjoyed the story. I think it was very well done. And you know what? I do want to say that for the most part, from my playthrough, for my 62 hours, it flew like that. Nothing really felt too tedious. You know, especially a lot of RPGs in general, there's always those elements and portions that feel really tedious. I didn't really feel like that, especially in the main story. I didn't really feel like there was too much that felt kind of like, you know, redundant or tedious, and I was like, you know, not really. And that's where I think they kind of nailed it on the head, is that everything was just thoroughly enjoyable as a whole. And, you know, it all tied together very nicely. I think they really pulled it off. You know, there was a couple here and there, you know, small technical hiccups. I've had, you know, some very small moments where there'd be kind of like maybe like a frame drops, or there'd be kind of like a little hiccup in the gameplay, kind of like slow down or freeze for like a split second. But that was very, very rare, you know, considering how much time I spent in the game. And like I said, it's very brief, and it's something that I've easily overlooked in the grand scheme of things. So all that to say, what on earth do I rate this game? Now, this is the crazy thing, is that technically speaking, I do kind of prefer the story of number 2. I don't know why. I just really love that cast of characters. I love the way that story was. I don't know. There's something just that was extra special about 2 that really grabbed me. So if I was saying just story, I would put 2 above 3 for me personally, but that's just me. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that 3 is not absolutely incredible. But all things considered, 3 does a lot better at a lot of things than 2 did, in terms of gameplay. The music goes even grander, which again, 2 was already a 10 out of 10 for the music for me, in my opinion. The worlds are bigger. The mechanics, like I said, you know, there's depth, but they're not unnecessarily complex or confusing. And I think the quality of life improvements, like I said, showing the quest route, I think it's just all really well done. So I've debated this a lot. You guys see me debate it in my grand finale, my playthrough. I said, I don't know what to give this game, but I don't know that I can give anything else but a perfect 10 out of 10. I'll be honest. I thought about it. I thought maybe a 9.8, 9.9, you know, especially considering the fact that, like, technically I do like Xenoblade 2 story more, but like I said, all things considered, 3 story is insane. 3 story in and of itself is almost perfect, in my opinion. It is just great. It is a perfect conclusion to the trilogy. And so honestly, I got to just go with it. 10 out of 10. I haven't given a game a 10 out of 10 in a long time. And I'll say this, my game of the year up until this point was Elden Ring. I was never really a big Souls fan, but I loved Elden Ring. It was so great. I beat it like 2 or 3 times. Can't even remember how many times. I think like 3 times maybe. And that was my game of the year up until now. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 absolutely knocked it out of its place, and I think for me, that's my game of the year. I don't think it's going to win overall game of the year, just because I think more people have probably played Elden Ring. But that's the thing, right? Is Xenoblade Chronicles is one of those games that I don't think you understand. And someone said this in my chat. I can't remember who it was, but someone said it, that Xenoblade is one of those games that you don't realize that how much. I guess I'm kind of paraphrasing, but you don't realize how much you're going to actually enjoy the game until you play it. It's not, when you're just kind of looking at it on the surface, it's not the same. When you actually get hands-on with it and you start playing, you start, you know, going through the story, it starts unraveling, you realize, whoa, this game is absolutely insane, and you realize that, you know, you actually really do love this game, and it's crazy. So great way to end the trilogy. Like I said, 10 out of 10 for me. It was insane. You have to play it. If you own a Switch, yeah, I mean, dude, you got to play the whole trilogy, really. The whole trilogy is on Switch with the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, number 2 that came out in 2017, with their DLCs, by the way, Future Connected in the Definitive Edition, and then Torna Golden Country for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and now 3, and then of course we're going to be getting some DLC for 3 as well, some smaller stuff like additional heroes, but also some bigger stuff like stories, which is going to be really excited. So I'm going to be covering that here on the channel when the time comes as well, but for now, we'll leave it at that. I didn't expect this video to be this long, but it was, because there's a lot to say, and there's still a lot more to say, but we're going to leave it at that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've beaten the game, what do you rate it? Do you think I'm being too generous, giving it a perfect score? Like I said, no game is technically perfect, but I think it ties everything nicely together, and I think everything is good enough that it deserves a 10 out of 10, because it is a masterpiece of a game. It is really, really good. So go play it for yourselves, and let me know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe for more. Until the next one, friends, game on. Thanks for watching.